everyone, my name is Christina Aguilera, and today I will be utilizing these tools to examine the stress response of my participant. In this exercise, we will be examining the effects on the body's stress response that results from cold temperature and body positioning by measuring changes in pulse and blood pressure. So first I will be filling the bowl with 50% of ice cubes. So since it's a rather large bowl, I'm going to add the ice cubes. And then I am going to add in some cold water, just enough to cover the ice cubes. So today I have my participant Caden, and I instructed him to move his sleeve up past his upper arm, and he's been sitting for the last 5 minutes quite comfortably. So now I will start by measuring his pulse for 20 seconds. Yep, there you go. Okay, so he had 28, so we're going to multiply that by 3, which is going to get us 84 beats per minute. So now that he's been sitting and we've taken his pulse, we're going to get his blood pressure. And his blood pressure was 110/65. And now I'm going to instruct my participant to place his right arm in the bowl of ice water, and we will let his right arm sit in the bowl of ice water for 1 minute. So Caden, go ahead and place your right arm in the bowl of ice water. So I'm going to place a timer for 1 minute, and we will be back in 1 minute. So now that it's been a minute in the ice bath, our participant is explaining that it's a little unbearable, but we're going to measure his blood pressure and then maintain his arm in the ice bath for another minute. So Caden, I'm going to have you stretch your arm a little more out for me. There you go. And flip your arm over a little more. There you go. And it was 108/58. So now that it's been another minute, I'm going to go ahead and measure the participant's blood pressure yet again. So okay, I'm going to turn your arm just a little for me. All right, and his blood pressure was 108/52. So now that the participant's arm has been submerged in the ice bath for a little over 2 minutes, we're going to go ahead and remove his arm, place it on the paper towel, and he's going to pat it dry for 2 minutes. So now that the participant has patted his hand dry for the last 2 minutes, we're now going to take a final measurement of his pulse and his blood pressure. So we're going to start with his pulse, measuring it for 20 seconds. So I'm just going to set a timer here for 20 seconds. Okay, I'm going to grab your arm here. All right, so I counted 22. We're gonna multiply that by 3. So he's had 66 beats per minute. And now we're gonna measure his blood pressure. His final blood pressure was 100/58. So now going into part 2 of the exercise, we're going to see how postural changes might affect heart rate and blood pressure. So I asked my participant to roll up his sleeve yet again so now that my participant has been standing for the last 2 minutes, I'm going to start by measuring his pulse. All right, so he had 28. We're going to multiply that by 3, and that's going to give us 84 beats per minute. I have now instructed my participant to perform a wall sit for 30 seconds. He's about 15 seconds in. All right, it's been 30 seconds. So Kaden, I'm gonna have you stand up and I'm gonna immediately take your pulse for the next 20 seconds. So he had 40, multiply that by 3, that's 120. And now we're gonna take his blood pressure. It was 120/72. So my participant has been standing for the last 2 minutes, and now we're going to take his final measurements. So first I'm going to start with his pulse. .31. So multiply that by 3, and that's going to be 93 beats per minute. And now I'm going to measure his blood pressure. And it's 112/78. In the conclusion of my experiment, I've came to find that this peer-reviewed article explains it best. While my participant was that of a younger stature, his blood pressure deemed to be a little lower than the average adults. However, throughout the experiment of the ice bath, his blood pressure began to decrease more and more as the experiment went on. In this article in particular, it explains how the research of rats with usual hypertension experienced a lower blood pressure in the event of hypothermia. What I found to be the most interesting in correlation to This article, as well as our experimentation of the participant's hand in the ice bath, is how God has equipped our bodies to handle such abnormal forms of temperature. In fact, our homeostasis levels are guided by God's creations. And finally, in conclusion to part 2 of our experiment, this associated article states it best that there are indeed associations of fitness and physical activity with the orthostatic responses of heart rate and blood pressure. So most importantly in this article, it references an immediate standing following something similar to a wall sit. The findings by Oksanen et al. Directly correlate to mine in that there is an immediate surge in blood pressure and heart rate following something similar to a wall sit. While the orthostatic measurement goes a little more in depth than what we performed in our experiment, it still alludes to an insight in what we can expect given the experimentation we performed.